please bear with us as we get the live stream started. As you can see, Matt is here and ready to start the webinar for you. So one moment, please. All right, and our live stream has started. Welcome everyone to our expert webinar, our last Simplilearn webinar of 2021, and we'll be looking ahead to digital marketing trends in 2022 with Matt Bailey, the founder and president of SiteLogic Marketing. It's a member of our digital marketing faculty at Simplilearn, so we're very glad to have him. And a little preliminary before we start the actual presentation. Want to move to the next slide, Matt?
Oh, yep.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's on you. That's on you today.
I'm driving, yes.
Yeah. First off, my name is Stuart Creek. I'm a marketing manager here at Simplilearn, and I'm going to let you know that you should put your questions as soon as you think of a question for Matt, please put it in the Q&A box, and I'll be making a list of those to ask him in the Q&A portion of the session toward the end. You can put in chat information, but the questions should go in the Q&A box. That way we'll be sure to see them. Sometimes the chat gets crowded. And next, I just want to say we have polls at a couple of places in the webinar. We will start with this simple poll. Let's Matt know a little bit about the audience. How much work experience do you have? And we've actually added a category here, so you can answer more than 10 years, 6 to 10, 3 to 5, 1 to 2. And also we ask how you're doing, because as the pandemic grinds on, it can take a toll. So we want to make sure that people are holding up. And fortunately, it looks today like almost everyone is. So in 2 seconds, I will share with you the poll results. And what it says is about a third of our audience is seasoned professionals with more than 10 years of experience. But about a quarter of the audience are people who are still in college or university. So it's a good distribution. Also, it's nice to see that pretty much everybody is doing well or in the middle. For the people who are not feeling so happy today, I hope that this webinar gives you information that will brighten your perspective for the coming year, because that's the intent. So let's move on. And I want to introduce Matt, who you see on your screen, and he is the president of SiteLogic, a digital marketing instructor for the DMA in New York, and instructor for the Online Marketing Certified Professional Program. And the author of several books, Internet Marketing, An Hour a Day, Wired to be Wowed, and Teach New Dogs Old Tricks. I'm sorry.
That's all
And
right.
he is, as I mentioned, a member of the digital marketing faculty. So welcome, Matt, and thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you so much, Stuart. I always look forward to doing this, and I look forward to our webinars here. And so, what I've been asked to cover is my views on what's happening, trends for maybe next year or the next few years that in digital marketing we need to know, we need to be aware of. And also, if you are working within an organization, this is something where you need to have a handle on the new technology and what's happening so that you can plan accordingly. So, I've got a number of things I want to cover today, and we're going to go a little fast. So, if you want me to address anything specifically about what I've said, put it in the chat box. I'm going to keep a little bit of an eye on that, but Stuart's going to watch it. And then afterwards, we're going to have time for Q&A, where we can dig in a little bit deeper, and that's where we can get into some real practical questions about what it is that you want and that I can provide some information to you. First of all, here's what's going to happen over the next few years, because it's been happening slowly, kind of undercover right now, but now it's coming out into the open. And that is that big tech is going to have a very antagonistic relationship. Okay, let's start with Google. All right, Google earlier started this Core Web Vitals, okay, which is a large technical change to the algorithm. This was a major change in an algorithm for their results that forced website owners to make changes and changes to the technical side. Now, this hasn't happened for quite a while. A lot of this prior to this has been in accessibility of programming, those types of things of making sure your site can be spidered. But now we have Google saying it has to be fast, it has to load a certain way. Here's the problem. For example, I use WordPress. I'm limited to what WordPress can do. And so a lot of Core Web Vital type optimization, I can't perform. I need WordPress to do it because WordPress is my content management system. It's my website manager. And WordPress really came out and they power more than 40% of websites online. And WordPress said, we're not changing anything. And so when all of a sudden people start pushing back and saying, we're not going to change because of Google, there's going to be a problem. Over 50% of the top 100 sites fail Core Web Vitals. And you know what? They don't have any plans to change. They're not reacting to what Google wants them to do. And some of you might remember last year when we did this wrap up, the big news was Google's FLoC, the Federated Learning of Cohorts, which was Google's replacement for the cookie. And you know what happened? Amazon said they're not going to support FLoC because that gives Google the ability to see what people are doing on Amazon.com. And so Amazon said we're not going to support it. WordPress said we're not going to support it. And they were coming out with plugins that you could block Google's tracking on your website if it was WordPress. And this started across the internet. Major properties were saying, we're not going to support Google in this. We're not going to make changes just because they want it. So this has been the second major change that Google has made to try and force the industry into a standard, and the industry is resisting. Another reason why is because what Google has done to publishers. Google has reduced publisher revenue because of their ads, because years ago, they made them go to AMP pages, and publishers put millions of dollars in developing AMP pages. But now with Core Web Vitals and the changes Google is making, Google is saying, well, there's no more AMP pages. And so now they've cost publishers millions of dollars to conform to a Google standard, to which Google has immediately just removed. So there's a lot of antagonistic issues going on between Google and the rest of the industry that supports it. And this is going to be interesting to watch because more and more companies, large companies, are having a problem with letting Google just do what they want to do. Another issue, and this came out with a number of lawsuits against Google, and now these lawsuits are against Facebook as well. And what they are accusing them of is what's essentially called price fixing. And that is where Google and Facebook had a secret relationship that they wouldn't compete with each other. But if there was ad space, that Facebook would get a discount for their ads before it would go to other advertisers. And this is amazing. There's been redacted documents come out about this, and there's a lot of lawsuits coming out as well that focus on this exact thing that's happening. So there's going to be a lot of issues with Google. And in fact, every month we're seeing more and more anti-Google as well as anti-Facebook content hitting the news. Now, speaking of Facebook, let's look at social media. A major retailer here in the US pulled out of social media entirely. Lush is a bath and body products retailer. And around the end of November, they said they were completely shutting down all of their social media because Lush, their brand is all about relaxing, self-care, take care of yourself, unplug and relax. And they said being on social media does not fit the brand because social media does so much to, it's an addictive algorithm. It keeps you online, it keeps you engaged, and it won't let you unplug. And they said that doesn't fit our brand. And so we're seeing more and more of a backlash against these addictive algorithms that keep you tuned into the feed. And so again, we're seeing more awareness about this, more of a mental health awareness, especially when Facebook now admits that they know that Instagram and the Facebook feeds have caused mental health issues. Their own research has shown it. And now other researchers are seeing it as well. Now, let's look at it now from a content creator standpoint. For content creators that create content on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, any of the social media, anyone who creates content, number one, what you are doing is you are giving your content to a third party. You're giving it to that social media network. And all social media networks are now reducing the visibility of content that has an external link. And what that means is if I'm a content creator and I post an article or I post a video and I link it to my website, it will reduce the visibility. Less people will see that content because it has an external link. If I produce and load content that has no external link, more people will see it. So now we don't have a friendly relationship. You see, in the past, that wouldn't be diminished. In the past, I could build an audience on social media and link it to my website and not be penalized for it. However, over the past few years, all the algorithms have merged into keeping people on that platform, on that social news feed, and they don't want people to leave. So now we have, again, another antagonistic relationship. I can't build my business effectively because they're diminishing my links. I can, if I want to be successful, I need to create content that they own because it's on their network. And now it's whose content is it? Whose content am I building? Am I truly building my own? And I might get paid for it. I might get some sponsorships. I might get paid by YouTube, but ultimately it's their content on their platform and I'm getting a little bit for it. So social media, creating content and posting content on social media has changed dramatically because of they're maintaining this closed bubble and you can't build like you used to. It's different and you have to view it that way, that now I'm using social media. As I tell people, you're using social media the way they use you. All right. They're using you to sell products, to put ads in front of, and they get paid when they show ads. So I'm going to use social media to build my lists. I'm going to put links, but I'm going to add content knowing that they take ownership of that content. and it helps their business. It gives them more content to keep people engaged. Now, second aspect is privacy. And if you're not watching this game, you're missing out. Privacy. These are just the headlines from the past year. And there's more that didn't make it in this list, okay? Look at all of the big tech names in here. Grindr was probably the most recent, fined over 6 million euro for sharing data without consent. And that's anyone who had the app. Any registered user of the app, they were sharing that data with advertisers. They were sharing that data with third parties without consent. Zoom was fined for sharing data. Google collecting biometric data on students. WhatsApp for sharing data. And look how many times Google shows up in here. Facebook fined, TikTok fined. And so it's amazing how much big tech is overstepping privacy, existing privacy laws. And let me tell you, the existing privacy laws are very liberal. They're not good. They need to be improved for this new digital commerce age. The privacy laws we have are antiquated and they don't cover everything, but even still, big tech is still overstepping. And the amount of fines and lawsuits going on against big tech, it's worldwide. Now, the last thing I want to draw your attention to is programmatic advertising, and real-time bidding has been called the biggest data breach in human history. All right. Now, if you don't understand what that means, let me explain it to you. Now, anytime you see an ad on the web page, wherever you go, whenever you see an ad, what happens is an ad server wants to know which ad fits you. It's all customized. They want to know which ad to place there for you to see. They need to fill that rectangle in order to make money. Now, in order to know who you are and what ad is going to fit, they extract a certain amount of information. And that's from cookies, that's from your browser data, that's from your device data. All right. Now, this is the ad spec. Okay. And this is from the IAB, which is the Interactive Advertising Bureau, which is the worldwide ad tech. I would say the worldwide ad tech standard. And this is exactly the same as Google's spec. You can find it on their website, and it's the AdCom spec. Now, when an ad is to be loaded on the page, here is the information that they are getting. Number one, the website you are on. Now, and it's interesting because they say example site. This is every site you're on. So any site. And you're going to get a sense of what I mean when I focus on that. Number one, are you on mobile? And if so, look, your ID. Now, this is your ad ID. This identifies you as a user and one that they know of. I can't write D. Ad ID. This builds your profile online, your individual profile. Then check this out. You think that now we have specifically user. Your user ID, your buyer ID, year of birth, gender. These are all included in the ad spec. Then device, and this right here, your IFA. If you're on a mobile device, this singles you out because this is unique to every single mobile device. They know the make, they know the model, they know the hardware, the operating system version. And that's the thing. And now look at all these data points that are about you. And this gets shared to everyone that wants to put an ad on the page. Not only this, look at this, the latitude and longitude of where you're at. This gets transmitted to every ad tech company that wants to put an ad in front of you. On every page you visit, every time there's an ad on the page. Now, how many times have you been on a page where there's 20 ads or more? And because they're monetizing all of this, Let me show you something. This is what's called the audience taxonomy. What that means is all of this data, all right, they take all this data, they send it to a big database. The big database, you may be aware of it. This is called the DMP, all right, the Data Management Platform. All of this data is condensed into what's called the DMP. And also, based on the websites you visit, they put you into a category. And here are the categories. Check this out. Look at this. They have categories: diabetes, epilepsy, heart disease, and look at this: incest or abuse support, incontinence. And if you are looking into any medical condition online, you are automatically assigned to a specific audience about what type of ailment you might be looking for. Also, anything you might be looking at. So right away, what this should show us is ad tech is tracking things that legally doctors aren't allowed to disclose. And so they know more about you than your doctor, than other people. They know what religion you are. They know what medical issues you are facing. And this is just the top of the categories that people are collecting, that ad tech is collecting on you. And this is part now of the profile. Now, this is one ad request, all right? For one ad to go on a page, all right? And so let's put our internet page here, and let's look specifically at this ad. One ad request. Well, that ad request goes out on the auction. And what they're saying is, who wants to bid on this ad? And we can see here it goes out, and now we have probably about 20 or 30 other ad tech companies bidding on getting that ad in there. Well, just one of these ad tech companies sends it out to another auction, and this one by itself is responsible for now sending out your data to hundreds of other companies. Just this one broker here has now sent your data out to all these companies. And this is what they mean, that this is the biggest data breach in human history. All of this data about you is being transmitted to thousands of companies a day every time you go online. Who you are, what content you're interested in reading, every website you visit, every piece of content you visit is assigned to this profile, and it's being shared. This is, right now, a lot of governments don't understand it, or they don't want to hear it. But this is getting harder and harder to ignore, because also this has a lot to do with fraud in the ad industry. And so this is something you need to be aware of. Keep an eye on it and watch it, because if you are the digital marketing representative in your company, you need to be able to talk about this competently and understand what's happening. All right. Enough for that section. We're going to lighten it up in the second section. So we've got another poll here. I would like to know, what's your area of specialty, or what are you most interested in learning here with this poll? Stuart, if you could pop that up there, please.
We have a companion question for people who are watching through the WebEx live.
Ah,
The companion question is, when would you like to start? And we are 10 seconds away from closing the poll, so please get your answers in. And here are the answers. It's a pretty broad distribution of the skills you'd like people want.
wow, yeah.
And almost half the audience wants to start right away. So that's a good sign, because now is always a good time to start.
You're in the right place.
Yep.
All right. Well, you could probably tell privacy and this antagonistic relationship. Those are two things I get emotional about because it has so much to do with respect of people. And I think big tech has become further and further disconnected with reality and with real people. And so now the second part, I'm going to drill down a little more into some specific things and discipline related information that we need to be aware of for the upcoming couple of years. Number one, SEO. Let's look at the Google results. I just put in a city here of Dubai. Look at what happens. Google, and this has been happening for years. Google is turning its results page into a destination. And so if you're trying to get a website to rank well in Google, you need to know what's going on in the results. Evaluate the results pages for the words you're trying to rank for and look what's there. We've got the local pack, all right? We've got the one box that will show up. Who's there? What's there? And you'll notice even in the one box, and this gets into local SEO and Google My Business, you've got images, you've got information, you've got a lot of questions and information that's there. Also, we've got the people also ask, we've got images and top stories. So it's not enough now just to get a website on the first page of Google. Your optimization needs to cover a wide range of content. If you're not also optimizing news articles that will show up there as well as in the news tab, if you're not optimizing your images, or if your e-commerce, your shopping feeds, anything like that, you need to optimize for the Google results page and all of the content and all the media types that are on there. So it's no longer just the website you need to be concerned about. It's looking to see what's all the competition that's there. Now, for SEO, what we're seeing, and this is some tweets that were made by John Moo from Google earlier, just last week, okay? And it's interesting because he talks about SEO and prioritizing it, all right? And I love what he says here. It's easy to find, whoops, let me get back to that. My marker didn't work. It's easy to find 100 things to do for SEO, but which one is the right one to focus on? And then he makes this statement, and this blew people's minds. You can't even tell afterwards. What he's saying is you can have 100 things to do, but once you get that done, you don't know what it was that got you the rankings. It could be one thing, it could be 10 things. That's part of SEO, and it is prioritizing. Prioritizing your SEO. Like he says, you can have 100 things to do, but what are you going to do today? That's SEO. Like he said here, some things are easy. Fixing a technically broken and seeing it rank, that's obvious. That's the easy part. But what about after that? And here we come down. SEO. Expertise in SEO requires experience. The more experience you have, the more you've seen things, the more you've worked on things, the more you've worked in different industries or different areas, it all adds up because the experience will help you figure out what to prioritize and what to do first. And so for SEO, it becomes really a never-ending learning experience from every site you work on, from everything that you do, and looking at those results and learning. SEO is not just something you do, it's something you fully engage in, and you look at the results of everything you do. It's one of those professions that you learn from something every time you work in it. So if your SEO skills or knowledge are not expanding because you're just executing, okay, you're just pushing buttons and pushing it out rather than learning from it and seeing what's working, what's not working, what's wrong with this site, how do we fix that? It's that constant development of skills to analyze what needs to be done and then prioritize how it should be done and then evaluate the results. Now, next thing, mobile. Mobile is big and we all know it, and over 70% of e-commerce sales are on mobile devices. And especially with the pandemic, what is amazing to me is more businesses have started in and because of the pandemic. People are starting more businesses than ever. And so there's going to be a demand for people who know how to build websites, people who know how to optimize websites, and by the way, people who know how to build mobile. All right. So it's so critical. Not only is the site mobile friendly, but let's talk about usability. And just because you use a website builder does not mean your website is the most usable. A lot of website builders, or even if you use a template or a theme, a lot of the people that build those are good artists and they're good designers, but they may not understand usability or conversion optimization, is what we call that. What that means is you need to know if you use a theme or a template, what do you need to change in order to improve the conversion rate? Are the button sizes too small? Is the text not readable? Is the color scheme not able to be read properly? Understanding those areas of usability and applying it, especially in mobile, because mobile you have less leeway for mistakes. The next area, especially in mobile, and this is one of the areas where I watch very closely, and that is people's confidence in using checkout on mobile. If people aren't confident that their transaction is secure, that they see all of the information, or that it's easy to understand, then they won't do it. And so as you develop sites, as you create them, and this gets into the conversion optimization, but it is giving those signals to users that it's okay, that it's good, and helping them along and making them confident that it's going to work. Now, the other side of this is what's called social commerce. And it's very interesting because over the past I would say more than 10 years. Every year when I see trends and when I see what people are predicting, every year for the past 10 or more years, they have said, watch out, social commerce is going to explode. And you know what hasn't happened over the past 10 or more years? Social commerce hasn't exploded. It's been a slow trickle up. It's not been the big, overwhelming flood that they said it would be. And here's why. Even in China, they top out at about 50% of people have bought from social commerce. In the US, it's about 30%. But here's the question that they ask people in order to get that data. Have you made at least one purchase on social commerce? That is a very low bar. What this then says is 30% of people in the US have made at least one purchase on social commerce. Now, most of those have been in games. All right. Those of you that play mobile games and you need that boost and you want to buy something, that's considered social commerce. And so if you're familiar with Candy Crush, they made over $1 billion this year in people buying boosts and lives and things like that. That's social commerce. So China's at 50%. And here's the thing, the analytics, I always go to analytics. People are more confident and overwhelmingly prefer to shop direct on a brand website or a retailer website than a social feed. They're not confident. And part of it too is like on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook's reputation is taking a big, big hit. Instagram along with it. Am I confident in using checkout on Instagram? Am I confident on using the checkout on TikTok? Am I confident with those things? I would rather go to the retailer site and buy it from them. And chances are I'll get a discount coupon when I do it. And so the studies, the analytics show that even though the amount of people who have made at least one purchase on a social site is increasing slowly, they'd rather go to the retailer or go to that site and do it rather than through the social site. So social commerce still has a lot of more and more brands are doing it. And I think it's one of those things where that's the trend, but the data doesn't follow. The data is not following that. And here's one of the reasons why. And this is Google's biggest competitor is Amazon, because Amazon gets 54% of product searches. People that want information go to Google. People looking for product information or to buy something, they go to Amazon. And that is Google's biggest competition. All right. I've been seeing in the tech and the chat, a couple of people have asked about the metaverse. All right.
Before you,
Metaverse. Yeah.
Matt, just before you go on to that, I wanted to make one other
Yeah.
comment about social
Mm-hmm.
commerce.
All right.
One of the interesting things about buying something off of Facebook is that there's so much actual fraud in terms of companies advertising a product that they know isn't real.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you've seen
Absolutely.
the people who order something and they get a miniature version of it, and that happened to my wife and me in
Oh
two different
no.
transactions. I ordered a adult men's shirt and got a child's shirt in shipment from China. So that type of thing
Yes. There is a
contaminates the
lot.
whole contaminates the whole sector for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is a lot of that. And actually, I just worked with an e-commerce company trying to figure this out over the past few weeks. They were getting orders, but the email address did not match the purchaser's name. And what we found out is this company had set up a store and was selling these products at ridiculously cheap prices. People were buying them thinking they were getting a great deal. Well, then the people that set up the store, they would buy them from other retailers with stolen credit cards and then ship it to whoever bought it. I'm looking at as we're figuring this out and working through it. I'm like, this takes so much work to do. And then what would happen is the chargeback would go against uh, the client that I was working with. When they found out that their credit card was being fraudulently used, there would be a chargeback, and it would be the legitimate retailer was out of the money. So there's a lot of fraud and a lot of thing that's going on in social retail that you've got to watch out for. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Metaverse. Number one, how many of you remember Second Life? How many of you remember that? That was about 10 years ago. Second Life was a VR world, and it wasn't particularly attractive. It was very blocky. Um, and it attracted a group of people, and this was called the greatest thing ever, and it was ushering in the virtual reality age. And everything I'm hearing about Metaverse, I heard 10 years ago about Second Life. There were businesses buying virtual real estate in Second Life. There was a virtual Times Square. There were virtual stores that brands were investing in, and they were spending millions of dollars in this Second Life and building this virtual. And then, do you ever hear about Second Life ever again? No. It was a fad. And honestly, Metaverse is proposed by Zuckerberg here, but the reality of Metaverse is years away. His vision is years away. Intel has said, they came out and said the Metaverse, in order to power it the way they're talking about, we need 1,000 times the current computational efficiency. That means technically we're not there yet. We're nowhere near that. And then also, it requires third-party hardware. And who dominates that market? Meta or Facebook. They own the hardware. And if Facebook owns the hardware, and they also own everything that goes on there, that means, and here's the thing, Facebook is all about monetizing your attention. Everything you look at in the metaverse is now added to your personal profile. everything you view, if your gaze goes on something, they know you're interested in it and they'll try and sell it to you. So ultimately, who owns the metaverse? And honestly, any technology that relies on third-party interfaces is a problem. It never really takes off. An example of that was the QR code. QR code came out years ago, but guess what? It was not native to a mobile device. You had to download an app in order to use the QR code correctly. And so the QR code never took off. Then comes the pandemic, and guess what? QR code readers are now native in the mobile device and they're used everywhere. QR code is fantastic because I don't want to touch the menu. So I use my phone, I get the QR code, I can see the menu on my phone. There's no longer a third-party interface. There's nothing I need to download or buy or acquire in order to use it. And that's the problem when we start talking about technology. So we've got hardware issues. We've got, and by the way, in order to buy the hardware, in order to participate in the metaverse, we're establishing a tiered system already. Those with the money, those with the hardware, those with the computational efficiency. That means those with the high-end PCs are the ones who are going to be able to use it effectively. Now, I will say this. I have participated in a VR lecture. I've done some VR training, and it was interesting. It was very interesting. Could I see everything moving to that someday? Possibly. But nothing replaces seeing actual humans and human interaction. It is a substitute, and it will always be a substitute, depending upon what's happening. So I'm sitting on the sidelines watching this. You may be more willing to jump in and see what's happening, and I'm fine with that. Go ahead, play around, see what it is, but be aware of who's involved and how are they going to monetize all this, because it's going to take billions of dollars to build this. All right. Last poll. All right. And I'm going to challenge you on this, especially if you are in digital marketing. We're in the last bit of our webinar here, but I would like to ask you about how would you define an impression? Stuart, if you could put that poll up there. This is my challenge to you. I want to know, how do you define an impression?
One moment.
All right. So give everyone a chance to read these.
Hold on for just a moment. There was a disconnect between.
That's all
There
right.
we
I'll see
go.
it in the
Here
chat.
it goes.
Yeah.
I've got it.
All right.
Oh boy.
That's all right. I got a lot of response in the chat here. People are putting in their answers in the chat, which I appreciate. That's good to see. All right. So the reason why I asked this question, when I go and train companies, even when I go to a marketing team, I will ask this question. And what I am amazed at is that even within one company, there are many different definitions of an impression. What that means is marketing has one, even in the marketing department, people in the marketing department have different definitions of an impression. And the problem is, how can we effectively measure something when we don't have a consistent understanding and definition of what an impression is. All right. And an impression is like the beginning of anything digital. So, Stuart, don't worry about that. We'll just go through it here. I've got a lot of, I'll let everyone self correct here. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all right. That's all right. Okay. So let me give you, and I'll just, I'm not going to go too much into this, but I will say this. I'm not going to say it's right. However, C, all right, I'm looking at the chat to see it because of everyone. C is Facebook's definition of an impression. It is Spotify's definition of an impression. It is Instagram. It is TikTok. It is anyone that is in the ad tech. All right. Anyone that is selling ads, selling impressions. This is their definition. Their definition is anything with greater than 0 pixels is shown for more than 0 seconds. That is the ad tech definition. And so within your company, if you are buying ads, if you are paying for impressions, then your definition needs to be the same as the company you are buying from, buying those impressions. Because if it's anything other, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could A, B, or C, those could be used within your organization. But if they don't match what you're paying for, then no one is understanding what's happening. And so, number one, when we start talking about careers and the opportunity that's going on right now, it's in understanding this data, understanding digital and how it applies. Here's how I'm going to finish over the next few minutes. There is a skills gap, all right? And this is a huge opportunity. This article just came out yesterday that there is a gap, a digital skills gap, all right? Look at this. Marketers' abilities in key digital skills have either stagnated or declined between 2020 and 2021 at all levels. All levels. There is a digital skills gap, and it goes right back to what I talked about in the earlier slide. We don't have a consistent definition of impression, and an impression is the basis of digital marketing. So if we don't understand that and we don't apply it within an organization, we're measuring the wrong things, we're thinking the wrong things, we're approaching problems without a solid understanding of what we're trying to do. Right now, there is LinkedIn Jobs has put out their top 5 skills in demand by employers. SEO, paid search, paid advertising, and analytics are 4 of the top 5 skills in demand right now. And unfortunately, in the marketplace, there is a lack of skilled marketers. There's a lack of understanding, especially in analytics. That right there. And I see this all the time. I train companies weekly, and analytics is their weakest strength. It's their weakest area. And when you don't understand analytics, you're not doing SEO effectively. You're not doing paid search effectively. You're not doing content marketing effectively. You're not doing any marketing effectively if you don't understand analytics. By the way, I would like to put this, where was this? I did a recent podcast with Brad Geddes. Those of you who are enrolled in Simplilearn courses, you know who Brad Geddes is. And let me see, let me post that here because I would highly, highly recommend, because Brad himself, even, we both talked about this, and we both agree that analytics by far is the most critical skill that is needed right now for marketers. Let me copy that and see if I can't get that in the chat. What's happening to my chat? Okay. All right. So there's a link to the podcast that I did with Brad. Those of you that are following Brad or in his courses, you won't be surprised at some of the things he says. But we both agree analytics is a critical skill moving forward. And so here's the opportunity. The opportunity is certifications are growing. They are more important than ever. They are more important than college degrees to many employers because a certification shows that you have specific skills that have been validated by an exam, by testing, by experience. That is what's critical. So a college degree, I can have a degree in marketing, but it doesn't show I know how to optimize a site. Doesn't show I know how to create a paid search campaign. So these certifications are becoming more and more important, as well as continuing education, always learning more, finding people, podcasts, training, additional, keeping up in the industry with who's doing things. And this work from home is going to continue for a lot of years. I think work from home is now here to stay. Because of that, invest. And I'll tell you this, because you're going to do a lot more presenting. You've got to be on camera. And if you are working from home, and whether you are working in an organization or whether you are working freelance, you're the brand. You are your own brand. And so your camera always needs to be on. You always need to be visible. And that means invest in a good camera, in lighting, and in a microphone, because these are now your window to the world. How you sound, how you look, your background, everything is part of your brand, either in a company or freelance. So invest in those things. And that will go far in establishing not only what you say, but your image, what's going on around you. That will establish your credibility. And so these are very, very important things. All right, we've got a few minutes left for your Q&A, and I'm also willing to hang around for a few extra minutes as well. Just so you know, Stuart, I don't know what your schedule is, but I've got a few extra minutes, and now's the best part. I want your questions.
Great. First off, I'm going to say that I'm having a little technical difficulty in looking at the chat right now. So until that clears up, I'll just stick with the questions that have come in so far, but there's quite a few. Here's an interesting setup for the discussion. One of our audience members asks, what is digital marketing? So if you could give an idea of, there's a follow-up question from another member, how is digital marketing different from digital publishing? So if you could give a kind of a foundational thing.
All right.
About
Wow,
that.
digital marketing. I'm going to make it as basic as possible. Digital marketing is the
Yeah.
wow. It is persuading people to do something. That's what marketing is. I'll just say it, marketing. Let's take away digital. It's the ability to influence people to take an action. That's marketing. It's persuasion at its core. And in a digital aspect, I'm asking people to do something. And how effective am I in influencing that action, that thought, or that decision? And so digital marketing is all about influencing an action. Now, we can get further in, influencing a trackable action. But if I'm trying to change people's attitudes or thoughts, that's part of marketing as well. So I would say at its most basic, it's the ability to influence an action or behavior or a thought.
And the difference between that and digital publishing is putting out your views or your content or your information, and thinking that when somebody accesses and reads that, they're going to make they're going to have a change in attitude. But digital marketing is more proactive than that, because
Yeah.
yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, digital publishing. So I work with a publishers organization, and these publishers, so like one of them publishes about acquisitions, like companies that are acquiring other companies, and they publish who's acquiring who, how to get your business acquired, or how to acquire. And so they found a niche of information that's valuable to other people. And they publish and they sell that information to that audience. And so digital publishing is more the ability to take content and put it online and build an audience.
Mhm. Uh, so Christian asks, how do you define a good digital marketer, and what are the basic requirements to succeed in digital marketing?
Wow. A good digital marketer. Okay, here is what I look for. And I'll just go through like kind of when I had my agency, I like people who ask good questions. Um, because if you ask good questions, that shows me that you're thinking analytically. And if you think analytically, as I said, analytics is the number one lacking skill in marketers today. And it's not that you need to understand data tables, you need to do comparative analytics, you need to understand the big stuff. I'm just talking about basic stuff. Being able to get and understand what you're seeing in a Google Analytics or in any analytics program, you understand how to navigate, how to get that top level data. But when people ask questions, good questions, I get into organizations, and when I'm working with the marketing team, what I'm teaching them to do is to ask questions. Because the better questions you ask, the more you define the project. The more you understand, well, what have we dealt with in the past, and how do we use that to plan for the future? I, that to me is probably the number one, and I wouldn't even say that's of a digital marketer. That's of any employee who is curious about what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How do we do it better? And digging into truly understanding what they're doing, those are the ones I love working with.
Great. Um, we have a couple of questions about people asking about the cookieless future and whether Google has given up on it.
No, Google's not giving up on it because that gives Google close to a monopoly on all online advertising if it goes cookieless. Um, because if it goes cookieless, every Google property and every Google technology is tracking. So Chrome browsers, Android operating systems, Google Sheets, the Google CAPTCHA. How many websites is that on? Google Analytics. How many websites is that on? So anyone who has allowed any Google property to be on their site, like Google Analytics or Google CAPTCHA, what you've done is you've put the Google Pixel, you've put Google tracking, and that's so what that does is solidify a complete monopoly. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't see we're going to go completely cookieless. However, we've also got the data privacy part of it. And over the next few years, we're going to see what's more important to governments, getting along with Google or enforcing privacy for citizens. That's going to be the fight over the next few years. And that will determine what we see in cookies
Okay.
or lack of cookies.
One of our audience members was shocked, and probably I would say that I was shocked as well to see the level of detail of personal information that is tracked into each ad request. And
Mhm.
so the question from the audience member is, isn't it illegal to collect user data without their permission?
You give your permission.
Hmm.
And I think part of it is people don't understand how much data is being collected. And even these websites that say uh, um, approve cookies or even limit the cookies. If you don't read the terms of service, then that's where it gets you. Because in the terms of service, it will say we share data. And anytime you see third party or partners, that means they're giving your data to whoever they want. If they say, we just, you don't just pull up any terms of service and do a word search for partner or third party. If that shows up, that means they're giving your data to whoever they want. Um, and no, people don't understand the extent of the tracking that's happening. And even if you say no, decline, I don't want my data shared, it's happening. And so, no, this is radicalized me. I'm in the industry and I hate this. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, we have a question from Rishika who asks, well, doesn't using incognito mode help?
No. All it does, incognito mode only hides what you're doing from people in your own house. Google still tracks it. Everyone still tracks it. All it does is delete your cookies after the session. It doesn't maintain the cookie data, but it still tracks your individual device. It tracks the browser, tracks all that. It knows you're in incognito mode too.
Mm.
So yeah, it's only
Um,
good for shopping for gifts for other people if you use a shared computer, and that way people don't see what you're shopping for.
that's a good point.
Yep.
Um,
I did see
so,
VPN. VPN does help a little bit, but it still knows what browser you're using. All you're pushing off is really kind of the location data and some of the things. So VPN can help. Just depends on the VPN.
LinkedIn Watcher is asking if artificial intelligence, automatic artificial intelligence, will help assist in digital marketing, or does further maturation, does the market need to mature more before that becomes a,
Everyone needs to mature more.
yeah,
AI
you
is
should see the t-shirt I'm wearing. Yeah, go ahead.
AI is doing some good stuff. However, it's dependent upon the quality and the amount of data given to the AI to do it. And so it's still a lot of the AI still requires manual input because it's not doing things right, or it's learning, and so it's still got it's doing some small things well. It's doing large things okay. It's doing big things not quite well. Um, that's where it's at with that.
Okay. Um, we have a question from another LinkedIn watcher who says, do you agree that what makes it difficult for a digital marketer to succeed is that they may be good in the technical part, but they lack the sense of a marketer, as you mentioned, in terms of content analytics and asking the good questions.
Hmm.
Um, so understanding the marketing side rather than the digital technical side.
Yeah, well, so this is what we call the soft skills, that you can understand technically how everything works, but if you need to communicate that to get someone to approve it, that takes sales skills. That takes face to face marketing skills to persuade someone to let you do the campaign. Once the campaign's done, now you have to communicate how well did the campaign do? Here's the benefit. Here's how it impacted uh your business. And this is not just uh and this is the problem I see in digital marketing and marketing as a whole. Marketers are typically looked down on in organizations because they're the big idea people. They're the people that come in and look at this latest technology. We need to be in the metaverse, or we need to be on TikTok. And they're doing all these things. But the problem is the rest of the organization sees marketing as they get money and they waste it. Because what is marketing bringing to the table? What are they creating? What are they producing in terms of revenue and profit? And so marketing doesn't get a full seat at the table. And so it's on marketers to understand how to communicate what they've done in terms that management understands, which means I need to focus on how did I financially impact the business? What did I do that created revenue on top of what would have been created already? And so by doing this campaign, I created this. Here's the revenue, here's the profit. Until marketers learn the management language of revenue, they're always going to be seen as sort of uh, the the part of the company that spends a lot of money on shiny things.
Yep. And it's important to not just to understand it, but to uh, make that part of your mindset so that you're not thinking of marketing as, well, we're creating awareness. Where you need to think of marketing as, well, we're creating revenue and ultimately profit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, we have a question from the YouTube channel. What would you advise to a marketer who's worked offline and loves marketing,
Hmm.
but doesn't know where to start the adventure of digital marketing?
Wow. I, you know what? You can apply so much of traditional marketing. You can make an immediate impact starting with strategy, because so many marketing departments that I work with, they love the execution. They love the, let's create a campaign on paid search. Let's create a campaign on Instagram. Let's create a campaign here. And what they lack is the understanding of strategy of that top level. What are we trying to produce? Are we presenting this the right way? And that's where digital marketers are sometimes so focused on a channel or a discipline that they don't understand the strategic parts of it. For example, I go back to the 4 Ps a lot, and the 4 Ps are taught as a basic in marketing: price, product, promotion. Forgetting the fourth one. Let me look at my whiteboard. I think it product, price, placement, and promotion.
Yeah.
I go back to that all the time because that's taught as marketing, but your average digital marketer has no understanding of that. Are we promoting it correctly? Are we priced competitively? Are we in the right place? What's our product difference? So, as a traditional marketer, you can bring a lot of those traditional strategic understanding of big picture and how are we going to now order our digital efforts. Going into digital is not hard because all digital is more channels. That's it. So how do you make those channels play together?
Hmm. Uh, we have another question from the YouTube channel. What are the core team positions in a digital marketing agency or department?
Wow. Wow.
I mean, I know that some agencies or departments consist of one person with all hats, but
Yes.
you know, what would the ideal be in terms of if you had the ability to build out a team?
All right. Well, I think I had a pretty good team when I had my agency. And the cornerstone was a good analyst. I had a good analyst that's all they did was analytics and diving into it. They were just a phenomenal, amazing analyst. Um, because they analyzed our clients in terms of conversion optimization. They were always looking at where, what's the funnel? Where are we losing people? How do we fix that? So he wasn't just an analyst, he was an analyst in terms of how do we make it better? How do we create more revenue? Those types of things. And that's what made it amazing. Now, I had content writers that worked and strategists, and the strategists were really, really good in content. I usually had people with a PR background that were working directly with clients and strategizing what this is going to look like. And so they would deal with the content calendar, the media that we're going to produce, what it's going to look like, how we're going to do it. But they all had an understanding of analytics. So they wouldn't, they would rely on the analyst for a deep dive of let's fix some underlying things, but they could read a report, they could understand it quickly, and they could communicate to the clients very quickly. So that was, I would say, the basic structure. And then we, honestly, for any of the, I would say the like paid search, sometimes we did that in-house, but for other projects, we would go get a company that specialized in paid search, because we had the budget and based on the client type, it just made sense to pay someone else to do it as a partner, and do that. So I would say I focused more on high-level communicators who understood content creation, content distribution, as well as high levels of interface with clients. And all of them had the ability to do analytics.
Okay. We're coming up on going 15 minutes over, so I'm going to ask one last question,
All right.
so that we don't keep you all day long. And I apologize in advance for all the questions we could not get to. Um, we we really got a lot of great questions, and we would be here literally all day if that was but the last question I want to ask is, um, where Nashun from YouTube asked, where do I learn the skills to be a successful digital marketer?
Hey, they're everywhere. You're on a Simplilearn webinar, and Simplilearn is one of the major training companies. They've got a certification of digital marketing, and it covers a lot of different disciplines. There are training companies all over, and I would look for training companies that have a certification that is an industry accepted certification. There are many things that you can look at. You check out my site as well. I've got some smaller training things on there. You can do LinkedIn. But what I like is a curated approach to learning where there is a specific course and that course has some assignments. And so you're developing a work product as well. And then you have that certification of your skills at the end. I would not recommend building your own curriculum off of YouTube. Anyone can put a YouTube video out there and anyone can say anything. That's not a third party endorsed curriculum. That is, anyone can do that. So I look for training companies that have a specific endorsed curriculum that they have put together and saying, this is the learning track, this is what you're going to learn. Uh, that's where I would focus.
Great. I just dropped a link into the chat about one of Simplilearn's digital marketing programs. We have, as you mentioned, Matt, we have different courses for particular skills. We also have comprehensive programs that cover a whole suite of skills. The one I dropped into the chat is the postgraduate program in partnership with Purdue University, so you get the advantages of alumni affiliation with Purdue, and you get a capstone project with, as you said, work product that can show off your skills
Mhm.
and your experience to your potential employers. Um,
Can I jump in 1 second?
sure.
All right. One of the biggest questions I get is I don't have experience, and
Yes.
employers want 1 to 3 years experience. Here's my response to that: don't wait. Start something now. Build your own website. One of the ways that I keep in touch is I do a lot of uh, I do work for charities. I do work for friends. My neighbor, he's got a side business, and I build a website for him. And now I market it. It's don't wait. This is digital. Everything's right there. You have all the tools you need. One of the best things I would have everyone who worked for me start a blog, and on that blog monetize. People were monetizing through YouTube. They had Google ads. They were selling products. There is no reason that you can't start something right now that shows your skills and that you can benefit from. And here's the bigger benefit: you get a job, you're still making money with this other project that you can maintain for years and grow it with you. Don't wait. You can do something that gets experience right now. Build your own site, build something that's yours and grow it over time. That the experience question, stop.
That parallels the advice so many of our guest experts have given about um, software development and
Hmm.
the idea of using your GitHub uh, account to show off the different kinds of open source projects you've done on a volunteer
Yeah.
basis builds up your
Hmm.
experience credibility. I do want to share with you one comment from David who said, literally, or quote, unreal. This is very interesting to be prepared for 2022. So
Good.
with that endorsement, I'm going to thank everybody for their questions. And Matt, I see I think I see on the screen, if my system is caught up, that you've got your contact information available.
Yep. There.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn. You can subscribe to the podcast or the website there, sitelogic.com. And if you're interested in picking up Teach New Dogs Old Tricks, it's all about sales and marketing and how to apply it in a digital world.
Yeah, I love that title too.
Thank you. All
And
right. And there's the
uh,
contact info for Simplylearn.
thank you so much. We appreciate it. I've dropped your LinkedIn, Matt, into the chat, so people can just click on that to follow or connect with you. And please do follow and connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We're at Simplylearn, and we look forward to seeing you at future Simplylearn webinars in the coming year. On behalf of Simplylearn and Matt Bailey, I would like to offer you um, our best wishes for a great winter season. If it's a holiday season for you, then please accept our best wishes for a happy holiday. And we look forward to a fantastic 2022. So thanks again.